Forget frequently asked questions.
Common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
go above and beyond.
They become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast. I have two guests today. First one is John Bojanowski. He's the CEO of Lantos Technologies. That's Lantos, Lantos Technologies. I also have Dr. Brian Fligor. He's the Chief Audiology Officer for Lantos. He also is a private practice owner for what's called Tobias and Petit Hearing Wellness. So those are my two guests today, and we're going to talk about hearing-related topics and 3D ear scanning. So, guys, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for having us on.
Richard, thank you so much. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, tell me about Lantos. What's the premise of the company?
Sure. So Lantos Technology is it was actually spun out of MIT about 10 years ago, and it was built on the premise that the standard of care for creating custom fit devices for the ear was literally a 130-year-old technology. And some smart people got together and thought we could do this much better, much more efficient. Spun it out. Lo and behold, we didn't know that the ear was as complicated as it was to actually create the digital technology. They had done it in dental applications, much more challenging to do so through the ear for a host of reasons. And the technology was brought to market and commercialized in Q1 of 2019.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lady a couple of years ago that did like 3D printed shoes, and I noticed, and she said that like with feet, they could be up to half a size difference. And I know with earphones, earphones that work for me won't work for my son or for my wife, and they fall out of their ears or they jam in their ear, and so I can tell that my ears have their own unique shape, the canals of them and everything. And
exactly.
My wife has ear problems, and anyway, I know it's a whole important thing. So tell me about what problems are you trying to solve by making custom ear-related devices?
Yeah, it's a great question. As far as from the business problem, which was an efficient and effective way to be able to create a personalized hearing solution for a person. The old way of taking ear mold impressions required a process that was inefficient, ineffective, and frankly uncomfortable for the patient, for the provider themselves, and then ultimately to the manufacturer. So the initial idea was we can simplify this process. So instead of literally squirting goop in the ear and waiting it for harden and pulling it out, putting it in a box and shipping it off to a manufacturer, we could really simplify that process by doing a 3D scan of the ear and the ear canal. The scan itself takes about 60 to 90 seconds to actually scan each ear. An STL file is then created and then can be uploaded through the cloud and then immediately shipped or sent via cloud to a manufacturer. And so what it does, Richard, is it enables a more personalized solution for anything from hearing aids to hearing protection to professional audio to consumer audio, sleep assistant devices, recreation and sports safety. So there's really a plethora of devices that can be created from that one scan.
So what can you generally say about people's ears? Is their left ear and their right ear very different in shape, or are people pretty symmetrical?
Dr. Fligor, why don't you take that one?
That is teed right up for me, Richard. Thanks for that. So ears are as unique as fingerprints. In fact, your ear print really could be a really excellent biomarker for identifying you as an individual. Your left ear and right ear are not the same. Last count, I've scanned somewhere over 18,000 ears, and I have yet to see two ears that are alike. We do these scans and we match them up and compare to others, and we can see that they truly are like snowflakes. They are unique. Because the ear is unique between your left ear, your right ear, and no two ears are alike. This means that anything that you might put in your ear is a one size fits none, unless it's actually made for you, and then it's one size fits you. That's the premise behind how I approach hearing care for my patients, whether it be for headphones or hearing protection or hearing aids or whatever kind of device you may feel at some point should be put in your ear, whether you want it to measure your blood pressure or do any kind of other biometric activity. It's just if it's made for your ear, then it's actually going to fit well. You're going to accept its use, and the person is going to be more successful using it.
Yeah, I've noticed that ear gear can fit too well, where it's well, what I mean by that is certain headphones, like it muffles your ear. There's no air gap. There's no, like the best ones I found, at least for me personally, there's some gap, and I don't know. I mean, again, like air can come by and the pressure is not altered. If I wear something that alters the pressure in my ear because it fits completely exactly, then it's no good. That's what I've noticed.
So, that's a really interesting point between what the engineers of these headphones describe as being a controlled vent versus an uncontrolled vent. So we very purposely allow for air to pass back and forth in a lot of these devices. So for instance, hearing aids, you actually really want to allow just natural ambient sound to pass through into the ear canal, but that's got to be mixed in with the augmented reality of sound coming through the hearing aid itself. So yeah, and that's both for the sake of performance as well as for just general comfort. That said, under certain circumstances, you want to have like a completely sealed ear so that you don't have uncontrolled leaks bypassing that earpiece. It allows you to not only control what sound comes in or does not come in, but it also allows you to acoustically tune the frequency response of that headphone. So when I put a custom sleeve on an AirPod Pro, the response that I get from people is, "Oh wow, you just made them sound better."
Yeah, like I've tried those. I think it is the AirPod Pro. I don't like. I mean, just who cares about our personal preferences, but with those silicone inserts, again, they make too much of a seal, and then it feels like my ears are stuffed up, and it worsens the sound, and I feel this pressure and stuff. I always thought they should have like little holes in them to allow some air to flow by, or maybe the shape should be different. But like, what have you found is ideal, and what is overfitting, and why?
So what you describe is what happens when you have pressures that are applied to very specific areas in the ear and then little to no pressure applied in other areas. And so you get this stuffy kind of swollen feeling in your ears. When you actually have that pressure that's distributed evenly across all of the ear tissue, then you can either have it in its isolation mode, where you are actually using these things as hearing protection devices, or you can put them in the transparency mode where you actually have ambient sound coming in through the microphone and then exiting out through the sound ports. These are really cool, interesting applications for a consumer product.
Okay, so again, when you've done these scans, what are you scanning, by the way? I guess they call what the cartilage part that sticks out of my head, is that called the pinna or the tinner or something? Or
John, okay with you if I continue on this path? Because it's I'm like, this is
right
cool.
Up your alley.
Yeah. So what we're scanning when we're doing the Lantos ear scan is the outer part of the ear that is basically like this bowl, if you will, that's kind of positioned sideways on the side of the head. So the outer part of the ear that includes this upper concave region and the lower concave region, something referred to as the concha. Okay. Then it's down through the opening of the ear canal called the aperture of the ear canal, down through the cartilaginous portion of that ear canal, which it's soft tissue that's highly compliant, down a good 15 millimeters past that aperture. Now you're getting inside the person's skull. This is the bony region of the ear canal. And this is really thin skin, not very compliant, but this is where the magic happens, that you can get just perfectly controlled delivery of sound once you've captured area there. Well, our scan, we go another 10 millimeters down into that. So you're easily within 4 millimeters of the person's eardrum. You've captured the entire outer ear.
Yeah, I was wondering how far you guys go in. So what applications are useful going that far in? Like, if someone needs tubes in their ears, can you tell? Or if someone gets a lot of ear infections, the morphology of their ear, can you see that far down where it's useful to them? Or what applications would be useful?
So for that purpose, that the way you describe that, it sounds more like a diagnostic otoscopy, which is something that ear, nose, and throat physician or a primary care doc or an audiologist may take a look in and, to assess the health of the ear. The device could have the capacity for that if we were to apply for that particular indication. But that's actually not its indication in terms of visual inspection for the sake of diagnosing disease. Something as simple as a handheld otoscope lets you see those kinds of things. What we're able to capture in this point is you can make a device that just barely goes inside the ear canal, but the direction that the ear canal goes, so that say you're trying to deliver some sound down the ear canal and you want to make it, a good, clean, precise delivery of sound. You want to know the direction that the ear canal goes. If an ear canal takes a sharp turn to the right, and some do, if you don't angle the sound output toward the eardrum and instead you angle it toward the ear canal wall, you actually lose a lot of high-pitched sound and the headphone sounds muffled. So that's one reason why you would want to go really deep down the canal so you really know the direction things go. Conversely, if you're looking to fit, say, a musician's earplug. So an earplug that you might use so that you can go and enjoy a concert back in the days when we actually had live music and could be, in live concert venues. You want to go and be there and experience it. You don't want to stick earplugs in your ears that makes it sound as though you're outside in the parking lot. Well, with these kinds of earplugs that are in fact acoustically tuned to just bring down the overall sound levels from low pitch to high pitch, in order for it to really meet that performance objective, you have to have the earplug, the sleeve itself that's custom made for the ear, to extend down into that bony region of the canal so that you don't have low pitches leaking and flanking around the side, causing the thing to sound muddy. That's what we're trying to avoid.
I bet that you can preferentially separate the sounds and place them at different parts of the canal, and maybe that would change the way people hear. High-pitched ones you put here, and then a millimeter ahead you place low-pitched sounds or things like that.
Yeah, Richard, now you sound a little bit like the engineers for the in-ear monitor companies, where you're lining up the different drivers that are tuned to different frequencies. Yeah, you actually could use the data, this physical three-dimensional image that's a point cloud of the ear. You could use those data to make an earphone that is specifically tuned to Richard's ear canal as opposed to John's ear canal as opposed to Brian's ear canal.
Huh. Well, what would that do for you if you did separate physically where the sounds are directed, into the canal? Like, what would that do for the person?
So, for instance, here's a good example: gaming. There's this whole idea of being able to provide a really compelling sound stage that you're actually inside the game. You would be able to do that if we had essentially replicated your own personal head-related transfer function using the geometry of your ear. We could actually make sound that was delivered to your left ear and your right ear sound as though it was coming outside of your head and that it was in fact surrounding you.
Okay. And I guess in some circumstances, if I work I remember I worked at Intel and Motorola, and in the fab, guys that worked there for 20, 30 years, they said they lost part of their hearing because there was this eternal background fan noise or air noise. And they said that I guess it caused them to certain part of their hearing range to fatigue, so they lost it. So I guess in different industries, if someone has ambient noise that would be damaging or dampening, maybe you could filter that out with the right earplugs.
That is correct. And there's a whole really rich literature behind occupational noise-induced hearing loss and why people don't use hearing protection. In large part, it's because if you provide an earplug that overprotects you, blocks out too much sound, it's actually a safety risk. So to some extent, the best earplug would be one that, for instance, we had something that was tuned specifically to what you're trying to do, trying to block out a little bit that fan noise specifically, but still allow you to hear your coworker say, hey, can you get 3 of this widget?
I'm sure you guys hear the joke, like, people want to tune out their spouse. Can you make something that does that? But,
I think we'll let that one go, Richard. You can handle that one.
No. So what applications are you finding the most interest in and the most need?
Yeah, so Dr. Fligor, I'll step on that
Please.
one, and then you can jump in as well. Initially, the most obvious place is in the hearing health arena with the hearing aid community. There's some interesting scenarios that have taken place there where approximately 80% of patients want some type of custom or personalized fit, but only about 20% of them actually are getting it. And so what we've done is helping to create a more simplified way to make that happen. And as part of that process, it's really opened the doors to other areas that Dr. Fligor was talking about in terms of the longer sort of hearing health episode. And what we're finding is moving into, instead of waiting till somebody is well down the path of hearing loss and trying to best get them back to where they were originally, is trying to address hearing loss up front. You talked about it earlier with the hearing protection piece of it. We work with the military. We have a number of applications with the military and with defense contractors. They have employees and staff that are working in high noise environments. I think I read recently that's the second most common form of disablement from military personnel. So that's a big area. Dr. Fligor talked about in the gaming industry. We work with professional audio companies to help enable the in-ear musician monitors that you see. So there's a whole plethora of things that we're doing and working with. And of course, the emerging area is this whole area of hearables. Again, Dr. Fligor mentioned it earlier in terms of companies that are working with AI embedded in the ear, with headphones that are now becoming wearable translators, biometrics data, capturing of pulse oximetry, HR, EEG. I come back from my long background was in remote patient monitoring of people with chronic diseases. And people went to the wrist to find that as a spot for biometrics data. And lo and behold, they're finding an ear is a really good spot for it. So what we've uncovered is, from a comfort standpoint, for extended wear, for improved stability in the ear, for enhanced audio quality, and for greater feedback reduction and noise cancellation, a custom fit or personalized device improves performance and really takes a good product and makes it a great product.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it as like there's different real estate of the ear and the head. So like the outer part of my ear, for over the ear headphones, right. I guess my wife says I'm fussy, so I hate over the ear headphones because they push on certain parts of my ear. These stupid masks that they give me a cauliflower ear. Those over the ear Bluetooth things never seem to fit my ear. So like there's that real estate out there. Then there's the real estate of the entrance and the canal. Yeah. And then there's the head itself, and on and on and on. And, so I guess there's tons of applications that this could be useful.
Richard, go ahead, John, please go ahead.
Let me finish that quickly and then you can take it. But one of the things that we did in developing the technology, the engineers understood that very quickly in terms of really how to make this most effective. And we developed a membrane that actually goes on the tip of the scanner. And what that membrane does is it's inflated as it goes down the canal. And it essentially acts as a proxy for whatever device that is going to go into that ear. And so as Brian talked about the specific fit in the areas, the bony regions versus the softer regions, it really fits perfectly into that real estate. And then additionally, and it wasn't really designed specifically for this, but of course, in today's COVID world, we have two additional benefits to it. One is it's a per patient or per individual consumable. So after both ears are scanned, that's thrown out and a new one is put on for the next individual. And then two is it's enabling our hearing aid providers, the audiologists, to actually be able to do really one on-site appointment with a patient, scan their ears, and then to do it through telehealth or through a e-commerce experience, an opportunity for them to be able to re-engage with that individual, and that individual can order multitudes of devices from that one particular scan.
Yeah. Is it at the point where, if I want to get new earbuds, I can pay a bit extra and order, let's say, the silicone attachment that will match to their base, so I can have something custom, or is it not that pervasive yet? It's only for specialized applications.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting question, and the answer is we're working in that specific area. By the time this goes out there, we are launching a storefront powered by Lantos, and essentially we're working with right now the hearing providers and their patients in order to be able to create what we refer to as one scan endless options, to make it easy for a customer to place an order and utilize that scan database for active and passive opportunities for them, the individual practitioner, to drive their revenue stream, and for individuals to have access to additional devices from that one scan. So really, that's a big part of what we're doing. The audiologists are interested in helping to grow their practices, bringing younger patients into their practices. So it's a really great opportunity that wins for all involved.
So what's the most amazing application that you guys have worked on or think may work? I mean, someone that's, let's say, supposedly they're deaf. Are they really deaf? Can you restore part of their hearing, or are there other applications that just are mind blowing at what you're able to do because of this?
So, John, do you mind if I jump in on that one?
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, so Richard, I've got a pretty good patient base here in the Boston area of professional musicians, and this is from the rock musicians through to the classical symphony musicians. And hearing loss is exceedingly pervasive, and it's one of these things where people are a little bit scared to let their bosses or their colleagues know that, hey, my hearing is not absolutely pristine. Well, a lot of us, our hearing is not pristine. We've had the opportunity in my practice to fit people with invisible hearing aids, principally because we are using this fully enclosed, encased membrane type of system to capture the real estate from really far down the ear canal to all the way outside of the ear canal, so that we can specifically position a tiny hidden little hearing aid in this professional musician's ear. It can be so deep that you can then put hearing protection on top of that. That's one of the neatest, coolest opportunities is I literally fit 5 different custom ear devices to a professional musician between his sleep plugs, because his wife snores, hearing aids to help him hear his wife so his wife isn't yelling at him all the time when they're both awake and she's not frustrated, but also ear monitoring devices that couple over top of his hearing aids, so that he's able to really hear himself and hear the other musicians that are around him. The fun piece about this is that this gentleman has a surgically altered shape to one ear, such that it would be terrifying to stick the 2-part silicone goop that's an impression of the ear, to stick that down the canal, inject it, wait for it to cure, and then try to remove it comfortably. Being able to scan it, and then now he can go back and he can, as soon as I have my storefront powered by Lantos available to my patient caseload, which is coming next month, they're going to be able to go on and they're going to be able to mix and match, what do I want for my listening needs, my listening pleasure, my listening protection, my listening enhancement. So, Richard, we just need to scan your ears, and then you can go online into my storefront with your ear scan code, and you could choose your sleep plugs so that you are able to get a good night's sleep, plus those custom tips that, depending on which headphone you've got, very likely the Ear Mold Labs that we partner with can make a custom tip for that.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. So you're saying in about a month that'll be available?
Yes, we are finalizing it. The plan is to launch in early June.
Okay. When you've been able to improve people's hearing, I mean, I don't know, percentage probably doesn't mean anything, but, how much have people's hearing been improved in whatever context you want to talk about? Is it a little? Is it tremendous? What's some of the commentary you've got?
So as John described that when you talk with people who have hearing loss, 80% of them want some kind of customized or personalized hearing care, but only about 20% of them actually get that. And that's principally because I have to take the blame and cast aspersions on my colleagues, other audiologists who are a little bit less excited about taking that 2-part silicone, squirting it in the ear canal and hoping that they do a good job. One size fits none is not the best way to provide hearing care. The difference between taking an off-the-shelf, sort of kind of fits you little dome that you put in the ear and how that sounds in its performance is better than not using anything, but there's a pretty significant gap between the one size fits none and then personalized hearing care. It's not that it's any louder, and it's not that it's any, I wouldn't describe it as being anything that is cost prohibitive or a challenge in any way now that we can scan ears, but it is that last mile between not bad to, oh, wow, that sounds really good.
Okay. Well, very good. So what's the best way for people to, when the store is open, where do they go? Will there be a URL, or, how are you guys going to announce it, and how do people find get their ears scanned?
Yeah, so we will be updating our website. We are certainly looking to grow our provider network. So our goal is to create an opportunity where somewhere in your neighborhood there will be someone that can scan your ears. So we're growing that right now. But Lantos Technologies, our website would be the best place to go, and we'll have that updated with where you can go to get a scan done.
Okay, well, very good. Anything else you guys wanted me to ask you that I missed? I mean, there's a lot we could talk about, but it's very cool that you're doing this. And I've had a lot of frustrations with listening devices over the years, so I'd be happy when this gets going.
Oh, yeah. Richard, I know John probably has a couple of points, and I don't want to steal any thunder there, that's for sure. The guy's just, I am so happy that John's at the head of this company doing this and driving it, because he comes from this background of commercializing these insanely technical products. I'm really focused on the ear and can only give you this perspective that hearing aids and hearing wellness is not just for grandma and grandpa. This is about hearing wellness throughout your lifetime. My patient caseload starts at about 2 months old right now. My youngest patient is 2 months old. My oldest patient, I do have a 100-year-old coming in next week to see me. Hearing is this unbelievably precious gift that can be taken away from us, either from viruses, not the coronavirus, thankfully, that doesn't seem to be part of the symptoms, but there are certain viruses that rob us of our hearing. Certain medications do. High sound exposure, such as on the job or using your headphones or going out to concerts and whatnot. So we use our ears for both connection, but also, not just verbal and intellectual connection, but also for emotional connection. And if we don't respect our ears and do things to preserve, protect, and enhance them, then we're giving up on one of our most vital human resources. I think that that's part of the underlying reason for Lantos to be doing what it's doing, is that this group of people, they're really looking to enhance the lives of individuals, tapping into an area that's previously really not been explored and and underappreciated. And so if there's anything that comes out of this interview, such as, respect your ears, love your ears, have a reason to engage with your hearing health, starting from very young through very old. It's not just about hearing aids. This is about hearing wellness.
Okay, very good. Well, guys, thanks for coming. And again, it's LantosTechnologies.com. Thanks, John.
Perfect.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.